Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, See How Huawei Builds an Agile Campus Network Using Innovative Products, sponsored by Huawei. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. On the right-hand side of your screen is the Q&A. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can type your question into the Q&A box and submit your questions to our speakers. All questions will be saved, so if we don't get to answer you today, we may follow up via email. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the yellow Help widget. Here you can find answers to common questions. A copy of today's slide deck is available for download in the green Resource List widget. Towards the end of today's presentation, we'll ask for your feedback. A survey will pop open on your screen and will only take 1 minute to complete. Your feedback is extremely helpful. There is also a brief questionnaire from Huawei loaded onto your audience console and should already be visible on your screen. Please take a moment to complete these questions during or at the end of the webinar. Finally, an on-demand version of the webcast will be available about 1 day after the event and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier today. I would now like to turn the event over to Enterprise Cloud News site editor, Mitch Wagner. Mitch?
Hi, thanks, Hannah. So I'm just going to introduce myself, and I'm going to introduce our presenter, Ajay Gupta, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ajay because he's got a lot of really interesting things to tell you about. I'm the unpleasant-looking fellow on the left is me. That's Mitch Wagner. I'm co-editor of Enterprise Cloud News. I track technology and business development for enterprise and service provider network operators. And previously, I was editor-in-chief at Internet Evolution and executive editor at Information Week. Ajay Gupta, who you'll be hearing from momentarily, is the handsome-looking fellow on the right there. He is Global Director of Product Marketing for the network product line at Huawei Technologies. He's responsible for product marketing, product management, GTM strategy and launch for enterprise networking products, including branch, campus, WLAN, security, and cloud as part of the global enterprise IP marketing team. So he is a man with many responsibilities. And with that, I'm just going to turn things over to Ajay.
Thank you, Mitch. Thanks for the nice intro. Pleasure to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, based on where you are. This webinar actually is in part continuation of the last webinar that we did, I think, last month, and that webinar is available as voice on demand on the website, so you're welcome to go and watch it later. The agenda for this webinar is in the next 40 minutes or so. We're going to cover some of the concepts that we did in the last one on the Agile Campus, some of its scenarios from an application point of view. Then we're going to focus on some of the innovative features that we feel are leading the market, unique in the market. And we're going to also talk some of the WLAN products that we launched and we feel could be the game changers in the WLAN market as we start moving towards mobile campus. And we finally going to end up with some of the competitive, some of the market share as a result of these unique features products that Huawei has brought to the market over the years. So without any further ado, let's get started here. This is kind of the VR Agile Campus 5.0. We are in the 5th incarnation of our Agile Campus. As a part of 5.0, it includes what we call our SD Campus, our software-defined campus. We also have campus insights from an operation and maintenance point of view. And then we obviously, the Agile Campus includes unified security, which is the fundamental building block for the Agile Campus. So let's talk about it on each one of them quickly here. So software-defined campus really brings the software SDN concepts into the campus. Yes, into the campus, not just data center, because we believe SDN is finding its way into the campus. Compared to the traditional campus network architecture, you can have the SD campus brings several benefits. For example, centralized control, the reduced complexity through automation, much more granular network control, network security, reliability, As part of automation, we bring things like template-based design, this automated service deployment, on-demand resource migration, ensuring a consistent user experience. The whole idea really is to deliver the same service experience to users anytime, anywhere. That's the whole idea of the SD Campus. Let's talk a little bit on the Campus Insights. What Campus Insights brings for our Agile Campus is a visualized network and sort of self-healing capabilities. The platform actually checks the health of the network devices. You can see the real-time CPU usage, memory usage, the buffer status, for example. The service quality can be measured and monitored in real time. The policies can be automatically adjusted to ensure an optimal experience. And as you move towards the unified security, Huawei has got what we released is CIS. It's a cybersecurity intelligence system. Think of it as a collaborative security model with a centralized pool of security resources. Using the SDN concepts, we can do things like service training. It's a big database security platform that again collects the notifications, the alerts in real time, do the synchronization, and then can take the proactive action as opposed to being reactive, actually. So this kind of shows you the Agile Campus 5.0. Anything before we move to the next slide here?
Yes. Well, thank you. AJ, this has been very interesting, and I know there is a lot of interest in this from our readers. One of the questions I think they have here is they'd like to know if Huawei has a campus fabric. And I'm wondering if you could address that point.
Thanks, Mitch. No, that's a great question, actually. So Huawei, the simple answer is yes. Huawei does have a campus fabric. If you look in the middle of the picture, there's something what we're calling UVF, Unified Virtual Fabric. The basic concepts behind it is if you look into the data centers, the changes in the traffic patterns have actually resulted in a flatter data center network. And the same concepts are now being applied to the campus to create this flat layer 2 fabric, as we call it, UVF. It provides you the basic infrastructure for building your virtual networks based on what we call a policy-based segmentation. So what I'm trying to say here is you can actually create multiple virtual networks within this campus infrastructure, similar to the MPLS network, except the tag is not there. So easy to deploy network virtualization across the wired and wireless campus. And we do have a study that one of our major customers is using this layer 2 fabric. I'll be happy to talk in the subsequent slides, actually. So let's keep moving here. I'm going to move on to slide number 3 here. This is kind of what we covered in the last webinar, the benefits of the Agile Campus here, really merging the wired and wireless networks. If you look traditionally, wired and wireless networks are overlay and used to be managed separately, which really didn't make sense, actually. So what we have done in the Agile Campus, as you can see on the right-hand side, to bring together this convergence with some of the things what we call native AC functionality that really brings together this convergence. This enables the unified management of wired and wireless networks. You can see the 3 benefits at the very bottom. So it's not just the convergence bring together a converged forwarding. There is a converged management. We have a feature called SVF, which is Super Virtual Fabric, that not only virtualizes fixed switches into a lot of sort of line cards onto the core or aggregation switches, but also virtualizes access points into the virtual ports on the switch. So the whole idea here is using this converged management, the whole network can be managed like a single switch, basically simplifying your management drastically. And the good part is SVF is license free here. And the last benefit you're going to get is obviously from a user authentication, it's a converged policies for both wired and wireless networks here.
Okay. Would this be a good time for me to throw in another question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so in this technology we're talking about here, do I still need to buy separate additional access controllers when using this?
Oh, that's a great question, Mitch. So the answer is no. In order to do this converged management and deploy this SVF feature, there is just no need to purchase any additional controllers or controller cards. We have this feature, I just touched upon the native ACs that goes inside the Agile switches. So you don't need to buy any additional ones. Everything is all converged together into a single switch. Okay, so let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next slide here. As you can see here, Huawei has actually been working very actively in some of the 2.5 gig switches. So let me kind of give you the need for the 2.5 gig first. As we start from a wireless point of view, as we start moving into wave 1 and wave 2 of 802.11 AC, obviously that has led to this so-called hunger for the increased bandwidth. There is a need obviously for the multi-gigabit access on the switching side. The question was the existing cabling structure, if you look at the Cat5e and Cat6 actually, they do not support, for example, say the 10 gig Ethernet more than, let's say, 55 meters. So if you want to support 100 meters, there is no way to support the 10 gig actually. So there was a greater need to have a bandwidth between 1 gig and 10 gig, and that's where the 2.5 gig came along. And you can see here we have a multiple models and form factors that we have launched for our access switches as well as on the access point to give you that higher bandwidth connectivity as you start moving into 802.11 AC, wave 1, wave 2, and even further than 11 AC.AX. So, and we're going to talk on some of these switches in the next few slides here.
Okay, so I've heard that there are several switch vendors that can also support the 200-meter long-distance PoE. So what's Huawei's special advantage with the 200-meter long distance?
Oh, so when it comes to PoE, yes, I agree with you. The other vendors can also support 200 meters, but Huawei is the only vendor when it comes to PoE++, the 60 watts, being able to have a switch that can support the PoE++ to 200 meters for 2.5 gig switches. Huawei has got the only switch, and I'm going to show it to you. The other vendors, when it comes to 2.5 gig, they can only go up to as far as 100 meters. So that's a unique advantage for 2.5 gig PoE++ for Huawei switches actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide here. And here what we wanted to really show you another unique thing that comes on the IoT convergence with Huawei's Agile Campus. As you start building and as IoT starts maturing. most of the IoT networks used to be built or have been being built even now, sort of independent of the Wi-Fi network. So the same question comes along, why do I need to make this huge investment in a separate network? Why can't I use my existing Wi-Fi networks to really address my IoT needs as well? So Huawei has got several APs. For example, I'm going to give you 4050DN, and I'm going to talk about it as well. It has got a built-in Bluetooth. It has got 3 IoT slots to take care of Bluetooth, RFID, and Zigbee. The whole idea really is to have the same network for both IoT and Wi-Fi networks, providing the Wi-Fi coverage as well as the IoT data backhaul actually. So one network for both Wi-Fi and IoT. As again, that's the unique advantages of the Huawei access point.
Okay. Are there any specific verticals that the solution is targeted for?
Oh, yeah. Before I answer, I think there's a little bit of a background noise. I think if people can mute their phones, that'll be great. So, Mitch, to answer your question, so are this convergence of Wi-Fi and IoT is definitely targeted towards specific verticals, including, I will say, for example, retail. If you go into retail, there is a solution called ESL, Electronic Shelf Labeling Solution. By using this converged network, the ESL solution can allow the prices to be adjusted in real time. Sometimes, as you know, sometimes the price you check out at the counter, there's a difference that the price of the product is labeled at. So and there's so much manual labor involved in updating the prices manually on a paper for the products on the shelf. So by deploying this ESL solution that leverages this convergence, we really bring together the real-time updates to the prices on the products in retail sector. The applications are huge, even in healthcare or education. In the healthcare, for example, you can have those RFID-based wristbands that can monitor and trace the patient's location and know where the patients are, and if the infants go across some boundary, there is going to be an alarm. Similarly, the same thing can be done in education. The students can be tracked and monitored if need be using this smart wristbands and other tools using the IoT and the Wi-Fi network convergence. So hopefully kind of gives you some idea of the different applications of Agile Campus 5.0. So let's start digging into some of those innovative features here.
Okay. So there's been some questions, and some might even say misinformation on Huawei's PoE capabilities. Can you please talk about how Huawei's PoE capabilities differentiate from the industries?
Definitely, and in fact, I got, for that matter, I know that question came before, so we put together some slides here on the PoE. So just to kind of a little bit of, everybody knows the power on Ethernet, and there are multiple different kinds of PoE here. There is the simplest form is what we call the 822.3 AF, which gives you 15.4 watts. And then there's PoE Plus, which gives you 30 watts with the .38T standards. And then there is a 60 watt, which is 4-pair PoE++. So Huawei has actually got the most diversified PoE++ models. We have switches that have 48 ports of PoE++ compared to any vendors out there. We have something what we call fast PoE. Fast PoE is needed when switch power failure occurs and then restored. So how much PoE restorate, how much time does it take for PoE to be restored? And based on the measurement, and those reports are available and it's been measured by a third party as well, the Huawei's PoE restoration time is only 4.5 seconds, which is almost 1/4 the time that some of the switches are taken in the industry. So again, leading the industry there. Then we have something what we call perpetual PoE. So you have perpetual PoE basically continues giving power to the endpoints even during a switch reboot. So maximizing your uptime, there is no need for a backup power. So three features that really differentiates Huawei PoE from the rest of the vendors: the most diversified PoE++ models, our fast PoE restoration time, 4.5 seconds, and after that, the perpetual PoE, basically there is no need for the backup power even during the software reboots on the switch there. So let's kind of show you some of the comparison here. And as I just talked about it, you can see for yourself. And the major thing, as I did talk earlier, Huawei is the only switch providing you with a 200 meter 2.5 gig PoE++ power supply switches here. So let's go to the next slide here. This is our 6720. This is our industry's first multi-gigabit switch actually. It's a 10 gig fixed Ethernet switch. It gives you the wireless access as well as can work as for the 10 gig servers. The point of highlighting this switch is really this is the model that gives you 200 meter PoE++ power for different devices. You can see the comparison on the bottom left-hand corner between this particular switch and the rest of the industry. And also, as I said, this switch has also got what we call, and I alluded to earlier, the SVF, giving you the so-called vertical virtualization. So in a sense, the switch provides you a wide variety of services in addition to the multi-gigabit. In terms of services, doing the security, the quality of services, helping you, ultimately the idea is to help you build that scalable, manageable, sort of reliable networks for your campus site.
Okay, so what's the difference between the SI and the HI and the LI?
Oh, that's actually a great question. I know this has been a confusion, and Huawei has different models that sometimes some of them are SI, some of them are EI or LI or even HI. So the basic point to mention here is LI. Anytime you see LI, that's a simplified, the sort of the bottom of the ladder. SI refers to the standard switch with the standard features. Anytime you see EI, that is an enhanced actually. And then there is HI, which stands for advanced. So give you an example. If you look at the 6720 EI versus 6720 SI, so there's a difference, for example, in terms of number of the MAC entries. For the EI, the enhanced one, the number of MAC entries, let's say, for example, 300,000, but for the SI, they may be 32,000. So it's the scale of the different features, the differences between the LI, SI, EI, and even HI from an advanced point of view.
Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about programmability, if I may. do you guys have programmable switches? How do you program them? And can you talk a little bit about the benefits of programmability?
So let me kind of show you, Mitch, and the folks here, some of the programmable switches that Huawei has been doing for a long time. When I say a long time, our first programmable modular switch, which we call Agile switch 12700, was launched way back in 2013, almost 5 years ago. Last year, I mean, at that time when it was launched, there were 3 form factors, and we have come up with now more form factors, but you can see here 48 ports of 10 gig, etc., and 100 gig port as well on the at the first launch. Last year we launched and we upgraded to the 400 gig in terms of performance, and we also included the 16 ports of 40 gig each. And this year, actually next year I should say, we are on track to release 8 ports of 100 gig and 16 ports of 40 gig. So kind of gives you, first of all, from a hardware point of view, but the whole idea of the programmable switch is being able to do the programmable, so what we call packet parsing. You can program this forwarding behaviors. You can actually manage the routing algorithm. So you can define your own forwarding models, own forwarding behaviors. So the whole idea really behind these programmable switches is being able to do the so-called service innovation. As you want to deploy new services, as you want to deploy new applications, you don't need to really do the forklift of the existing boxes. By using the software programmability, you can implement and deploy the new services at a much faster rate, actually. So it's going to meet not only just the current, but the future service requirements as well as far as the new applications go. So in terms of programmability, Huawei brings together several ways to do that from an automation point of view. We have something what we call NetConf, which is the network configuration protocol, as you know, for reading, writing network configuration. We also have Yang, which is the data modeling languages. Both NetConf and Yang replaces this, this costly, cumbersome processes that have been taking the manual labor, and you need an IT expertise in order to do that. Not only that, and they're much more prone to making mistakes, actually. From a control point of view, from a control plane point of view, we have OpenFlow or Agile controller, which is the SDN controller, uses the OpenFlow to talk with the forwarding plane of the devices, switching and routing, so it can basically adapt better to your changing business requirements, actually. And all of this programmability is being done using what we call the ENP chips. Again, that's a Huawei innovation from the Huawei High Silicon Labs. That really is the brain of all these Agile switches. So I talked about the 6700 from a PoE perspective, but let me talk quickly on the 5720 HI, which is again from a fixed non-modular programmable switch, actually. Again, these are gigabit Ethernet switches that can serve as an access devices for the high bandwidth, or also can be an aggregation devices. These can be used for your branch for the large campuses, or can be used as a core switches as well for the small size or the access switches. Available 24 by 48 port, but the main thing here is these switches, 5720 HI, has got all the programmability features that you find in our higher end 12700. So things like free mobility, things like native access controller, things like IPCA, if you've seen the last webinar we talked about, all of those features are available as part of our fixed switches in 5700 series. So this is one of our best products that is most widely deployed across the network here.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about application identification, if I may. That's been a major feature that's been demanded by enterprise customers. So I have several questions really on this subject. I'd like to know whether Huawei products have application identification built into them, what kinds of application identifications you can support, how many applications you can support, and also how often can upgrades happen? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, definitely. I think a couple of quite a few questions there. So let me kind of show you, Mitch, based on the questions here. When it comes to application identification, you're looking at the layer 7D you're using the layer 7D packet inspection. Basically, you want to really classify the traffic based on the application, and once you know what kind of application, then you can take several actions, whether it's quality of service, whether it's kind of limiting the traffic, and any other thing that you like to do, because now you know what that application is actually. So in terms of Huawei identifying the applications, you can see here, we do identify some of the top applications as shown here. You're talking, I mean, you know, we can identify ESPN, BBC, YouTube, Instagram, even speed test, WebEx also from WebEx screen sharing, Dropbox. So these are some of the top applications our customers wanted us to identify, and we can do that. But these are not the only 10 applications. There are over 6,000 applications, probably the highest in the industry that we can support. You also asked a question in terms of the upgrade. We can almost do an automatic upgrade, and in some cases the upgrade is even done on a weekly basis. So let me quickly show, in the interest of time here, there are several form factors that you can do this application identification in our switches. In our Agile campus, we have something called ACU, which not only can function as an access controller, but can also function as a firewall IPS integrated into the switch and can identify different applications. We have a separate form factors in the form of access controller 6605 or 6005 in the middle of the slide. It's a separate appliance, again doing the function of application identification. And then we have our standard next generation firewall that can actually identify over 6,500 plus application. The point to mention here is NSS did some lab testing, and they have something what they call actually cyber advanced warning system, and then they found an accuracy over 99% for our application. So pretty comprehensive when it comes to the application identification.
Okay, so given the typical user traffic today, can you help us understand a little bit about Huawei's WLAN products and performance when operating in dual 5G mode?
Oh, that's actually that's again a great question when it comes to WLAN, and let me show you quickly on the slides here. Before I go to the dual 5G, let's quickly see the problems with the 2.4 gigahertz actually. The problem with the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is that the same frequency is used by many phones, microwaves, which causes interference. And this interference actually can reduce the speed of the wireless network. Obviously, it can reduce the performance actually. So you want to be using the 5 gigahertz if possible, because there's a less network interference and better network performance actually. It also kind of helps you, Mitch, in terms of kind of giving you a relief, because the 2.4 gigahertz is overcrowded. So if you look at the evolution of the 5 gig, Huawei has been shipping the 5 gig products for a long time, 5 gigahertz I mean. So we have 60 on the left-hand side. You can see 6010 DN actually, followed by 4050 DN, which has one 2.4 gig and one 5 gig, and on the 802.11 AC. And then you go to the triple radio 4051 TN, which brings you one radio 2.4 gig and the other two on the 5 gigahertz. The whole idea is really kind of, so let's move on to the next slide here, which is our 8182 DN. This is the Huawei's first outdoor dual 5G AP. These are the 802.11 AC Wave 2. Do the 4x4 multi-user MIMO 4 spatial stream. And you can see here it's a very innovative cylindrical structure from an outdoor perspective. It brings you the heat dissipation. I mean, basically helps you in a better heat dissipation. It also has a built-in surge protection. And the major feature of this particular AP, when it comes to dual 5G and outdoor, it has got a built-in Bluetooth. When I say built-in Bluetooth, that means you don't, when you want to do a troubleshooting, you can do it remotely. You don't have to disassemble the AP to find out what the problems are. You can kind of, this is a major benefit from an outdoor perspective, actually. Let me talk to the second one, which is a triple radio 4051 TN here. Again, it's a triple radio dual 5G. It's got 3 radios, one 2.4 gig radio and 2 5G radios. In fact, if all the 3 radios are working, the device, in terms of performance, can actually reach to almost to the range of 3 gigabits per second, which is a huge performance advantage. Main thing with this particular 4051 TN is quite applicable into the, the classroom, the indoor, especially when you look at the speeds that you need. For example, if you're doing the videos, you might need 6 meg. If you're doing some of the P2P, peer-to-peer application, you might need more than 10 meg or 20 meg. So you need a AP that can meet those performance needs. So this has been used and deployed by our customers indoor, into classroom, into education. The third I'm gonna show here is a triple radio 5G 8050 TN. It's again a Wave 2 access point designed for high density scenarios such as stadiums and the transportation hubs, stations, for example, anything high density outdoor. This particular AP is very useful. Again, all of those things I talked about are very much applicable when it comes to dual 5G, giving you the performance boost and really meeting the needs of the newer applications as we start moving into the digital architecture.
Okay.
So here I'm going to show you quick comparison here. Sorry, here I can actually show you. So you can see here kind of the comparison of the Huawei from the industry. Huawei has the complete portfolio when it comes to dual band 5G and triple radio, while the competition has got either partially or they do not have APs, different APs targeted for indoor and outdoor actually. So they cannot optimize the performance when it comes to outdoors versus indoors. So let's quickly talk on some of the competitiveness here. And here you can see Huawei's Agile Campus has been deployed in over 1,200 customers' projects around the world. When I say around the globe, I'm referring to the different continents, whether Europe, Asia, Middle East, Africa, or even Americas actually. In terms, the market has rewarded us well because of some of the uniqueness, some of the programmability features that some of the latest WLAN products that we have brought to the market. So if you really look at our market share in terms of the Ethernet switching, we are the number 3 vendor in the world today. Look at the year-over-year growth. Both the competition, whether you talk of HP or Cisco, their year-over-year growth versus Huawei is pretty minimal. Huawei is growing at the rate of almost 40% year-over-year. You know, a few years ago, Huawei was not even in the niche quadrant for the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Since then, we have made tremendous progress. We have moved from niche to challenger, and now Gartner has recognized Huawei as a visionary player from an MQ perspective. Look at the WLAN. Top 3 again here. Year-over-year growth. Huawei is growing over 200% compared to, again, our competition. So that really shows you that the market and industry has rewarded Huawei. Huawei has outperformed the growth compared to the industry and the other vendors here. So
I was just going to ask you if you could talk about some of the successful case studies for Huawei.
Exactly, and I think that's what I got here. I wanted to quickly show you some of the real case studies in the different parts of the world from different customers. The first one I was going to show you, this is from Unieuro, Italy. It's the top 3 shopping malls in the Europe, actually, as well. Top 3 shopping malls in Italy, not in the Europe, actually. Their goal and what they wanted to really do was to provide our customers with, they wanted to really have, first of all, a good, consistent Wi-Fi experience. So they were really looking for a Wi-Fi network that can really provide them with a good coverage, ensuring the optimal performance, doing the 100% coverage with no coverage holes, no single interferences between APs on the same floor or on the neighboring floors. They wanted their own customers to enjoy the access to the Wi-Fi network pretty easily in a densely populated scenarios. That was their one goal they wanted to do. The second thing, what they wanted to do was really work with the third-party analytical companies, basically do the market analysis of their marketing campaign. They wanted to trace the efficiency of their marketing strategies and ads, actually. And that's where Huawei's WLAN Wi-Fi and the Agile Campus 5.0 came to their rescue. Now they can easily, using the Huawei solution, they can push from a marketing campaigning point of view the customizable portal pages to maximize their ads actually to their customers. They can measure the effectiveness, the so-called efficacy of the online and offline promotions. And the whole idea really is to be able to develop this effective marketing campaigns to really kind of giving you the best ROI when it comes to the campus networks. Let me show you the second case study here. This is the case study in Thailand. This is, I assume, KMITL is the top engineering college in Thailand. Almost 22,000 students actually, 10 plus colleges in the network, in the whole campus there. What they wanted to do was to build an SDN-based high-performance campus networks. Their idea was to make this university as the Thailand first digital university, at least in the next 3 years or 5 years. So what they did, they used the VXLAN architecture, the layer 2 architecture that I talked earlier in the UVF, the Unified Virtual Fabric. So they are the customer, they are using our layer 2 architecture in the campus. The whole idea really is to bring the layer 2 architecture for both campus and data center, having one abstraction to provide these virtual services. And as a result, they're able to create this 100 gig non-blocking the forwarding architecture, providing you basically the services from an education, e-education, distance learning, some of the courses, if you know the MOOC, the massively open parallel courses that are available from different universities. So the whole idea, they are the showcase when it comes to the education digitization in Thailand. Let me quickly show you my next case study here, and it comes from Europe. Actually, it's the province in the northern Holland. I've been told it's a pretty vibrant city there. They wanted to really have. They have two goals actually when they were looking for the next network. The existing network was almost at the time of was almost at the refresh time. And they wanted to, the requirements were, they wanted to increase the efficiency of the network while reducing the expenditure, obviously the ROI and TCO. And also the second requirement was to bring this transparency to promote this openness of the government affairs with at least a 50% online service rate. So if you look at it, they're using the Huawei campus Agile architecture. They increased that transparency, what they were thinking, from the goal of 50% to almost 65%. And kind of if you refer to the quote on the bottom right here, they really kind of say this is from the IT director saying Huawei has high expertise and rich experience, and they help them to deploy. So this is really the IT director was quite appreciative as a result once the network was deployed. With that, I hope at least it gives some ideas into the Agile Campus 5.2, the different innovative features, the uniqueness. Some of the WLAN products from a dual 5G, some of our advantages when you're looking for 2.5 gig switches, access switches, and PoE++ that you can go up to 200 meters. So it kind of brings it all together and kind of gives you why Huawei has been winning into the world, into the global projects in different continents. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mitch. Mitch, take it away.
Thank you, AJ, for a very informative and interesting presentation. We're going to go to the Q&A now. Before we do, I'm going to remind everybody in our audience to please take our survey, which will be coming up on your screen shortly. And that's from us here at Enterprise Cloud News and Light Reading. But you'll also have some questions that you've received from Huawei, and we'd like you to please answer those as well. So let's go to the first question from our audience here. We've got one from Daniel, and I'm going to badly mispronounce the last name, and I apologize for that. Daniel Jack from Komsa, and he wants to know if the 200-meter PoE is just supported between Huawei switches and Huawei APs. And do the APs need a 2.5G interface?
So that's it.
AJ, can you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The answer to that is yes. Okay.
Yes. So,
so
the answer
the next question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, the answer is yes, actually. And remember the switch I showed 6720 SI. It is currently applicable there, but in terms of other APs, I will be very interested. Let us know what other APs you're thinking. I will be happy to make sure and kind of see how we can make it work with them. So send us more information.
Great. Okay, so next question. I'm just going to mispronounce everybody's name here because I have difficulty following that. So I'll just apologize once for everyone. The next question is from Raj Maini at Intel. He wants to know, in retail, for example, what kind of client software and hardware, for example, like digital signs, have to do to take advantage of the 5.0 architecture?
So all you need in terms of the client hardware and software, your existing digital signage, for example, should work just fine. You don't have to update or modify. All you need to make sure is you're actually leveraging some of the built-in IoT slots into the Huawei Access products. As long as you're using the right APs and the Agile Campus, you should be just fine with the existing clients' digital signage, actually. So no major modifications needed to leverage the architecture.
Okay. Our next question, are there any other signature databases in addition to the application identification database?
Yes. So when it comes to the application identification database, Huawei does provide the different databases, including, for example, you might be familiar with the intrusion prevention IPS databases. There is also an antivirus databases. We also include, from a security point of view, some of the malicious domain name signature databases. So the point here is there are a couple of more databases that are available both from an application and security perspective, and they're updated on a regular basis, and they can be done from the cloud, so you don't really have to do it. It's all proactive automatically.
Okay. Do Huawei APs support hardware-based datagram transport layer security, that's DTLS encryption?
So DTLS encryption, if you look at the DTLS side, it can be two ways. It can be done in the hardware or it can be done in the software. Okay, so Huawei provides both hardware and software. If you want to look on the hardware-based encryption, you can use some of the Huawei's outdoor APs, for example. 8130DN or 8030, actually they do support hardware-based. The point here is, based on your performance requirements, you can select and choose between the hardware-based and the software-based DTLS encryption.
Okay, so what are the innovations or advantages of AP8182DN compared with other APs in the market?
Yes. So if you look at the slide, and if you remember the slide, the 8182DN, you see that cylindrical structure, which is really unique in the market. It's from an outdoor perspective. Having that cylindrical structure helps you from a heat dissipation, even helping from a stability point of view. I also talked about the built-in surge protection, like from a lightning strikes, etc. So we have a built-in surge protection. I also talked about a little bit on the remote Bluetooth from a maintenance and troubleshooting point of view. So these are some very unique advantages when it comes to dual 5G outdoor A2.11 AC access points. When you're looking at it, and 8182DN pretty much fits the bill here.
Okay. So how many users and APs does the ACU2 card support?
So yes, the ACU card that I was referring to during the application identification, and that's an integrated card that goes inside the Huawei switches. So the card can function both as an access control, or it can work as a firewall IPS, basically bringing you that application identification over 6,000 plus apps. So in terms of when it comes to APs and users, each ACU can support up to 2,000 APs and almost up to 32,000 users, which again we feel is leading the market.
What are the innovations provided by Huawei Agile Campus 5.0?
Definitely, and I think this kind of refers to our first section when we talked about the Agile Campus 5.2. So, things like the free mobility, being able to, for the user to come from anywhere, anytime, any device, and being able to have the same policies all the time, same bandwidth, same quality of services, doesn't matter which device, which location he is accessing from. Our UVF, our VXLAN-based architecture, bringing you this flatter network, kind of combining from both campus and data center into one infrastructure from a policy synchronization point of view. I talked about the wired wireless convergence. We just referred to the IoT convergences, multi-gig Ethernet switches from a 200-meter PoE++ advantages, and then our security platform. We didn't talk too much on the security today, and I do encourage folks to learn more about the security side. We have this collaborative security model based on the big data analytics, really forming the building blocks for the network. So many advantages when it comes to the Agile Campus 5.2.
Okay, so is there any difference? Oh, this one has been answered. I apologize. I'm going to just move on to the next question. Which industries are Huawei Agile Switch products distributed in?
So I think that also kind of refers to one of the slides there. Huawei has been shipping these Agile switches since almost 5 years now, and we have over like 1,200 plus customers all over the world. We have customers in different verticals, whether you're talking finances, whether you're talking large enterprises, education, retail, or media, entertainment, even transportation, oil and gas, healthcare. This is again one of our larger targeted verticals. So based on the part of the world, based on the needs and the requirements, we feel Agile Campus can bring something for every vertical. The main point of Agile Campus 5.0 really is to really help the enterprises really to speed up this digital architecture. As companies start moving into the digitization, as you start digitizing not just the IT, but their processes, the other things from a business processes point of view, you need an architecture that you can program, that you can implement new services without any forklifting, your investment protection. And that's exactly the key fundamental point when it comes to the Agile Campus, Agile architecture for different customers.
Okay, we have time for one more question, I think, and let's make it this. What are the advantages of the ENP chip compared with ASIC and commercial NP chips?
I think that's a great question. So let me kind of put it this way. If you look at the ASICs, actually, ASICs have high performances and low power consumption, but they have a very little flexibility. If you look over on-the-shelf network processors, over-the-shelf, the commercial network processors are okay. They have higher sort of flexibility, but they are limited in their performances and the power consumption. What ENP does, actually, it brings you the best of ASICs and best of the commercial networks. What I'm trying to say here is Huawei's ENP brings you performances like ASICs and brings you the flexibility like the commercial network processor. So it kind of brings you best of both the worlds. So I think though that's the brain of our Agile architecture, Agile switches actually, and because of that, we are able to bring some of the advantages that we talked and discussed earlier.
Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Before we go, I'd like to invite everyone in our audience to please take our survey. You'll see the link on your screen. Just click that, and it'll take you off to the right place. Also, answer your questions that Huawei is asking you. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone here for attending and paying attention and asking good questions. I'd like to thank AJ for giving a great presentation. I'd like to thank Huawei, our hosts, and I'd like to wish everybody a good day or afternoon or evening or night, depending on where you are in the world.